Have you ever had this experience where you were at a place, maybe on holiday or visiting someone new, and you want to take a photo of the amazing view, so you get your phone out and you pull the little arm down and the camera doesn't go down? It stays up. You look at your phone and it says the rear camera is being blocked. Then in confusion you turn around and there is no one behind you. It might seem funny at first, but it becomes really annoying when your shadow walks away without you. And you have to stand there for 20 minutes while it takes photos of itself on its own. So here's my experience with this strange phenomenon. I was on a road trip from Denver to Las Vegas, and I decided to make a stop in the small town of Rhyolite, Nevada. It's the only town that I know about that has an old train car from the ghost town nearby, still sitting right outside of the train depot. And since I love trains, I thought it would be cool to check out. So after driving through the empty desert for hours, I finally started seeing signs for Rhyolite. I got excited, turned off the radio, and started paying close attention to the road, which was now turning into a dirt road. Finally, I saw the train car sitting outside the train depot, and it looked just like I imagined it would. Now, it was a little hard to get to, because it was sitting on the other side of the train tracks, and there were no working railroad crossings. Just a bunch of makeshift ramps and wooden planks that people had laid down across the tracks. But I found a way to get over there and parked my car next to it. And now comes the part of the story where my shadow walks away without me. I got out of my car and walked towards the train car, all the while taking photos and videos. And once I got close enough to it, I realized that I couldn't actually walk around it, because there was a big drop-off on one side, and the other side was blocked by some really large rocks. The only way to get closer to it was to climb up on top of it. So I walked back to my car to get my backpack out of the trunk, so that I could grab my tripod and set it up on top of the train car to get some better shots. But when I pulled the little arm down on my phone to start recording, the camera stayed up. Checked my phone and it said the rear camera is being blocked. I turned around and there was no one behind me. This was my shadow. Now I knew this was unto my shadow, because my shadow was still standing where I had been standing when I took my last photo, except now it was moving on its own. I ran around the front of the train car and it was still walking away from me. And I started getting a little creeped out at this point, because I was starting to think that it was unto my shadow, that it was something else. Like I could see it taking photos of the interior of the train car, then putting the phone down, and then picking it back up again and continuing to walk away from me. The train car was pretty small, so I went around the other side to try to find an entrance, so that I could go inside and retrieve my shadow. But there was no entrance on that side either. The only opening was the door, which was on the opposite side of the train car from where my shadow was. So I had no choice but to walk all the way around the train car to try to get to my shadow, which was still walking away from me and taking photos the whole time. I started getting annoyed because I wanted to take some photos of the interior of the train car, but it kept moving away from me. Finally, I was able to get to the opposite side of the train car, opened the door, and climbed up into the train car. Inside, it was pitch black. There was no windows, and the only light was coming from the doorway. I called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" But obviously no one responded. I felt my way along the wall until I felt a ledge and started climbing up on top of the train car. When I got to the top, I crawled forward and could feel the wind blowing on my face. The wind snatched my hat right off my head and it tumbled off the edge of the train car. I reached out to grab it, but it fell onto the ground below. Then I remembered why I had wanted to come to this place in the first place. Here I was on top of an abandoned train car in the middle of the desert. It sounded crazy if I told someone about it, let alone if I wrote it in a story. And suddenly I wasn't scared anymore. Sat down on top of the train car and enjoyed the feeling of the sun on my skin and the wind blowing through my hair. I looked out at the desert and thought about how vast and empty it was, and it made me feel so small. After a while, I started to hear voices in the distance, and they were getting closer. They were talking about how they could unbelieve how many people were coming to this place and how it was so popular right now. They also said something about how they wished they could leave and go somewhere else. I thought to myself, well, at least they can move. I'm stuck here. I tried to make the best of the situation. I stood up, dusted myself off, and started walking towards the sound of the voices, so that I could hopefully hitch a ride back to my car. But before I could get very far, the two women came around the corner, pushing their bikes. I asked them if they would mind taking a photo of me so that I could post it on social media, and they agreed. They took several photos and even did some silly poses with me. Then finally they asked me if I needed any help getting back to my car, and I explained to them about my shadow walking away from me. They were totally on board to help me figure it out. One of them suggested that I go down the train tracks instead of going back the way I came. So I followed her down the tracks, and she helped me find a place where I could climb under the tracks and go back to where my car was. We walked in silence for a few minutes, and then she pointed out that my shadow had stopped moving. I didn't realize that until I stopped and turned around, and there was no shadow behind me. I asked her, "Do you see that?" And she replied, "See what?" "Oh, you mean your shadow?" She pointed out that my shadow was now back where it belonged, walking with me. We reached the spot where I could climb under the tracks, and we parted ways. I thanked her for helping me, and then started walking back towards my car. All the while I was thinking about how lucky I was to meet her, because I do want to know if I would have been able to figure out how to get back to my car without her help. I mean, I probably would have eventually found my way, but who knows how long it would have taken. And I also wondered if this was the reason why I had been drawn to this place in the first place. Maybe I knew that I would need help getting out of there, and that SYI had decided to come. I climbed under the tracks and started walking. All of a sudden, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw that I had received a text message from the woman who had helped me. She wanted to know if I made it back to my car okay, and if I needed anything else from her. I told her that I had made it and that I wanted to thank her again for her help. We exchanged numbers, and then I told her about my experience with the shadow walking away from me. She said that she had seen my shadow the whole time, and she thought it was really funny. We made plans to meet up again sometime, and then she left. I continued on towards my car and couldn't help but smile. This whole experience had been so strange and wonderful at the same time. I felt like I had been on some kind of adventure. When I finally reached my car, I got in and started the engine. Then I pulled out my phone and checked my photos. I had managed to capture the whole thing on camera, and I could unstop laughing as I watched it over and over again. This was definitely something that I would never forget.